and scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and
Subscribe.
Hey, what's going on? This is TNS, Time and Space, and I would like to welcome you to episode 18 of Talk and Scroll. Before we begin, I would invite you to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you can be made aware of any time that I create new content. But anyway, now that the housekeeping is done, I wanted to try something on the fly. So with no further ado, I came across this particular post. This was a post that says no time off request. The dates aren't really important, but basically it says the following. It says that it has a problem with these no time off requests, where an employer will set aside a block of time to where they will not accept requests for time off from employees. So the graphic below says, here's the thing, your employees do not owe you every waking minute of every day. So I want to break this down piece by piece. I don't want to just read it verbatim. So that is correct. Your employer most certainly does not owe you, or you don't owe your employer every waking minute of every day. However, there are terms of employment, and the employer sets those terms of employment, and it's up to you as the employee to either accept them and be an employee, or to decline them and not be an employee. So anyway, let's continue. It says, you are not entitled to all of their time because you are their employer. This is why the term requesting off annoys me so much. I'm not making a request. I am notifying you that I am not available to work those days. So again, I would say it's up to us if we really want to have that ultimate control. As I was going to allude to in a previous recording that I did, I want to do this longer recording. I'm going to elaborate on the fact that we don't necessarily get to dictate to employers. I understand the point of view, and that no, the employer does not own us. And yes, we do have lives. However, we also have terms of employment that we agreed to. We agreed to them as employees, or you agreed to them as an employee. So we don't necessarily get to dictate. We don't get to have our cake and eat it too, in that we can dictate terms to the employer, but also reap the benefits of that employment. So anyway, it says, the reason for my days off doesn't matter. My job is not my entire life. I would agree with that. Your job is not your entire life. However, during that time that you are employed, there are also terms of employment. And if you can't meet those terms of employment, or if you no longer wish to meet those terms of employment, then you should cease that employment. You should cease that employment, especially where I am in Florida. It's an at-will state, meaning that either side can choose to end that employment relationship for whatever reason. So let me continue. It says, if I want to take days off and spend my hard-earned money in order to have a gratifying, joyful existence, then that's what I'm going to do. The end. It's not so cut and dry. I mean, it is, but it isn't. On the one hand, in an ideal world, I agree that employers would most certainly care more about work-life balance. It is a tremendous benefit, and it is beneficial for employers to care about the work-life balance of their employees. However, it's not necessarily required. The employer cares about their work getting done. They care about their business first and foremost. The only reason they bring along employees, or they take on employees, are if the employees can contribute value. More specifically, meaning that they can create more value than the employer has to pay out. Therefore, it's a profit to the employer to bring on employees. Because if you're not creating a profit and if you're not creating value, then why would the employer even employ you? Especially if you're going to say that you prefer to have a gratifying, joyful existence. As I said in a previous video that I recorded, you are most certainly entitled to have that gratifying, joyful existence. However, it's not up to the employer to facilitate that. That's up to us. So for me, when I see that statement, I say that's on me. It's on me to create a gratifying, joyful existence. And if I can do it with that employer, then that's great. However, I can say that employment in general is going to limit the joy of your existence. You are going to have terms of employment that will most likely infringe on your personal life. Because if you think about the flip side, if you want to have 100% of your time, you can simply cease to work. You can stop working and then you'll have 24 hours, presumably, all to yourself. However, in the world we live in, we have bills to pay, we have expenses, we consume, meaning that we have to cover the cost of our consumption. So therefore, we don't necessarily get to be 100% free, quote unquote, unless we are homeless or something like that, unless we're destitute, or unless we have assets, which this is the best part, which is what I really want to allude to, is that we have assets that generate value that can cover our expenses for us. And then we can have the most gratifying, joyful existences, meaning that we can invest, we can purchase stocks. I mean, a lot of people are so skeptical of that. You know what I mean? People, they'll talk about gratifying, joyful existence, especially in this post, for example. It says that if I want to use my money to have a gratifying, joyful existence, however, people are resistant to the best ways to make that happen. So we want to do it by working for someone else. Well, that someone else is paying us for a reason. We have to create value. So ultimately, we need to have assets that generate value or streams of income that will cover our expenses and cover the cost of our consumption so that we can be free to have gratifying, joyful existences. That's just something I was thinking about as I was reading this post because I get it. I actually worked with an employer way back when I was doing security, and they were an employer that would block off the holidays, for example, which is what this time off request sign looks like. I remember seeing something identical where it said, "We will not accept requests during this certain time period." The employer, which I won't name, they literally said, after October, we can't accept any more time off requests because our particular business is busy during this time. This is the time of year where we need our employees the most. We may or may not like that. However, the employer sets the terms of the employment and either we agree or disagree. What actually happened with me was I put in a request and it actually wasn't even in that window. However, it was such that the employer went and found somebody else because they had the luxury to do that. They went and found somebody else who doesn't need to have or who didn't need to have that gratifying, joyful existence at that particular moment. They went and found someone who was willing to work through the holidays and who didn't provide that pushback. They didn't give any request. They didn't make any request. They didn't notify the employer that they wouldn't be there. The employer found someone who would be there, and employers have that luxury. Should they care about work-life balance? Most definitely. In an ideal world, I can't say it enough, they most certainly would, because that would make employees more motivated, more productive, and what have you. However, it's not a guarantee. And in case that employer is not going to honor our request for work-life balance, we have to create that work-life balance. That is why I invest. That is why I'm creating content. Any means, any legal means, I should say, any legal means that will create another stream of income, I should say. Anything that will create an additional stream of income, a legal stream of income, I am down for that. Any asset that I can acquire that will gain value over time or that will appreciate over time, that will cover my expenses for me so that I can have a gratifying, joyful existence, I am all for that, and I encourage every and anyone to pursue that because we won't necessarily get it from employers. They're not obligated. As much as we may want legislation or we may want the government to get involved, they really can't force that but so much. The government can't force employers to be in business because the government cannot force employers to create that particular business or whatever it is that provides you an income. You know, they're the ones that provide you the opportunity to earn that hard-earned money, as you put it. So that's just something I wanted to speak about. This has been another episode of Talk and Scroll. Y'all take it easy.
Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll.
subscribe.